Hey guys, tonight we're going to talk about why you could never, and I mean never, survive living in a Bronze Age village. And I'm not talking about the obvious stuff like, oh no Wi-Fi or where's the nearest Starbucks. No, I'm talking about the kind of daily reality that would make you beg to be sent back to your worst Monday morning commute through traffic and broken dreams. See, here's the thing about time travel fantasies. Everyone thinks they'd be fine going back in time because they've watched enough historical dramas on Netflix to feel confident about it. You know, you just show up, maybe teach them about soap, become the village genius, and live happily ever after in your quaint little thatched cottage. But let me paint you a picture of what actually happens when you step out of your time machine into a Bronze Age settlement around 3,000 years ago. First thing that hits you? The smell. And I'm not talking about that romantic, fresh countryside air smell you're imagining. I'm talking about the kind of assault on your nostrils that makes you wonder if someone mixed wet dog, rotting fish, human waste, and whatever that mysterious stain on your gym bag smells like after you forgot about it for 6 months. You see, Bronze Age people hadn't quite figured out the whole don't poop where you eat concept the way we have today. Sure, they were smart enough to make bronze tools and build impressive settlements, but sanitation? That was more of a we'll cross that bridge when we come to it situation, except they never really came to that bridge. They just kept walking around it in circles, stepping in things they probably shouldn't have been stepping in. And speaking of stepping in things, let's talk about your feet for a second. You know how you complain when you get a tiny pebble in your shoe during your leisurely stroll to get overpriced coffee? Well, congratulations, because now you're walking around in leather sandals that look like they were cobbled together by someone who learned shoemaking from watching a drunk beaver work with tree bark. Every step is an adventure in pain, and every path is basically an obstacle course designed by someone who really didn't like feet. But before we dive deeper into this historical nightmare, why don't you drop a comment and let me know where you're listening from, and if you're enjoying these kinds of stories, hit that like button and maybe subscribe too. Trust me, by the end of this, you'll be so grateful for your boring modern existence that you'll want to hug your toilet just for being clean and functional. So you've somehow managed to ignore the smell and the foot pain, and now you're thinking, okay, I can adapt. I'll just find a job and blend in. Oh, sweet summer child, let me introduce you to Bronze Age career opportunities, which basically boil down to farming, making bronze things, or dying, and sometimes all three at once. Let's say you decide to become a farmer because hey, how hard can it be? You've seen people do it in movies. You plant seeds, water them, harvest crops, boom, you're a farmer, except in the Bronze Age farming was less peaceful connection with nature and more daily wrestling match with death while the weather tries to murder your family. Your typical day starts before dawn, which isn't romantic when you realize there's no coffee to help you function like a human being. Instead, you get to wake up to the sound of roosters that probably have the lung capacity of opera singers and the attitude of your least favourite co-worker on their worst day. These birds don't just crow, they perform full theatrical productions about how much they hate the sunrise. You stumble out of your hut, which, by the way, makes your college dorm room look like a penthouse suite. We're talking about a structure that's basically 4 walls, a roof, and a prayer that it doesn't collapse when someone sneezes too hard. The walls are made of mud and straw, which sounds quaint until you realise that every rainstorm turns your home into something that resembles a melting chocolate cake left in a car on a hot summer day. Now, about those bronze tools everyone's so proud of. Sure, bronze was cutting-edge technology for the time, but using a bronze plough is like trying to cut your steak with a butter knife made of Play-Doh. It sort of works, but mostly it just makes you question your life choices while you struggle to break ground that has the consistency of concrete mixed with spite. And let's not forget about the livestock. You know how people today complain about their pets being demanding? Bronze Age animals were like having roommates who never paid rent, ate all your food, made constant noise, and occasionally tried to kill you. Your cow doesn't just moo, it performs interpretive dance about its feelings while simultaneously plotting your demise. Your chickens don't just lay eggs, they stage elaborate escape attempts that would make Prison Break movies look like children's cartoons. The pigs? Don't get me started on the pigs. They're like having a garbage disposal that developed consciousness and decided to use its powers for evil. They'll eat anything, and I mean anything, including things you didn't even know were edible. Sometimes they'll look at you with those beady little eyes, and you can almost hear them thinking, you know, human probably tastes pretty good with the right seasoning. Okay, so maybe you're thinking, Fine, the work is hard, but at least I'll have a rich social life. Oh, you sweet naive time traveller. The social dynamics of a Bronze Age village make your most awkward family reunion look like a sophisticated cocktail party. First off, everyone knows everyone, and I mean everyone knows everything about everyone. You know how you complain about your neighbours being nosy? These people elevated nosiness to an art form. Your Bronze Age neighbour doesn't just know what you had for breakfast, they know how many times you chewed it, what face you made while swallowing, and they've already told 17 other people about your questionable eating habits. Privacy? That's not even a concept yet. Your hut is basically a cardboard box with delusions of grandeur, and the walls are about as soundproof as tissue paper in a hurricane. Every conversation, every argument, every intimate moment is basically community entertainment. It's like living in a reality TV show, except everyone's the audience and everyone's also the show, and nobody signed a waiver. And speaking of entertainment, let me tell you about Bronze Age social gatherings. You know how you sometimes complain about boring dinner parties? Bronze Age festivities were like someone took all the awkwardness of a work Christmas party, mixed it with the chaos of a toddler's birthday party, and then added the hygiene standards of a medieval plague pit. The food at these gatherings would make airplane meals look like fine dining. We're talking about meat that's been sitting out in the sun long enough to develop its own personality, vegetables that look like they've seen better decades, and bread that has the texture of tree bark and probably tastes worse. The drink? Well, let's just say they hadn't quite perfected the fermentation process, so you're basically drinking liquid regret with a side of "I hope this doesn't kill me." But here's the real kicker about Bronze Age social life: the gossip. You think your town has drama? These people turned gossip into a competitive sport. Someone's cow produces slightly less milk than usual. That's front page news. Someone's wife makes better pottery than someone else's wife. That's a scandal that'll be talked about for generations. Someone accidentally burns their bread. That's basically social suicide. And don't even think about trying to keep your modern opinions to yourself. The moment you suggest something revolutionary like, maybe we should wash our hands before eating, or perhaps we shouldn't throw our waste directly into the drinking water, you'll be branded as either a dangerous radical or possibly possessed by evil spirits. Either way, you're not getting invited to the next community feast, which honestly might be a blessing in disguise. Now let's talk about what happens when you inevitably get sick in your Bronze Age paradise. Because trust me, you will get sick. With all that contaminated water, questionable food, and complete lack of basic hygiene, getting sick isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of how spectacularly your immune system will wave the white flag of surrender. You know how you complain about waiting 3 hours in the emergency room? Well, congratulations, because your Bronze Age healthcare provider is the village wise woman who learned medicine by watching her grandmother poke dead animals with sticks and mumbling incantations that sound like someone trying to order coffee in a language they don't speak. Her medical bag contains herbs that look like they were collected from the definitely poisonous section of the forest, some animal bones that may or may not have magical properties, and a collection of rocks that she insists have healing energy, but mostly just look like regular rocks that someone's been carrying around in their pocket for too long. Got a headache? She'll drill a hole in your skull to let the evil spirits out. And I'm not talking about some precise sterile procedure. I'm talking about someone coming at your head with a bronze tool that looks like it was designed by someone who had never seen a head before, but had heard one described by a drunk person in a dark room. Broken bone? No problem. They'll just set it using their advanced knowledge of anatomy, which basically amounts to bones go inside the body, right? Your leg will heal at an angle that makes you walk like you're constantly doing the cha-cha, but hey, at least you're mobile. Stomach problems? Time for some herbal remedies that taste like someone mixed grass clippings with regret, and added just a hint of, what is that weird aftertaste and should I be worried? The good news is that these treatments will either cure you or make you forget you were ever sick in the first place. The bad news is that you might also forget your own name, your family, and how to perform basic human functions like breathing. And let's talk about dental care, shall we? You know how you dread going to the dentist even though they have proper tools, anesthesia, and years of medical training? Well, your Bronze Age dentist is just Bob from down the path who once successfully removed a splinter from his own finger and now considers himself a medical expert. His tools consist of whatever sharp objects he can find lying around. His technique involves a lot of hoping for the best, and his bedside manner makes your least favourite customer service representative seem warm and caring. Need a tooth pulled? Bob's going to grab it with something that looks like pliers crossed with a torture device and just start yanking until something gives way. Hopefully it's the tooth and not your jaw. But let's say you somehow survive the healthcare system and manage to establish yourself in Bronze Age society. Now comes the fun part, living your actual daily life, which makes your worst Monday feel like a spa day in comparison. Your day starts at dawn, not because you want to be an early riser, but because your rooster has apparently appointed himself as the village alarm clock and takes his job way too seriously. This bird doesn't just crow, it performs entire symphonies of sound at volumes that would make a rock concert seem quiet and peaceful. Breakfast is whatever didn't spoil overnight, which is a daily game of culinary Russian roulette. That bread from yesterday, it might be fine, or it might have developed its own ecosystem. Those berries you picked, they could be delicious, or they could be the last thing you ever taste. Every meal is an adventure in, will this kill me, or just make me wish I was dead? Then it's off to work, where you get to spend your day doing back-breaking labour with tools that would make modern equipment look like alien technology. Remember when I mentioned that bronze plough earlier? Well, using it is like trying to dig a swimming pool with a spoon made of cheese. It's technically possible, but you'll question every life choice that led you to this moment. And the weather? Oh, the weather is not your friend. There's no weather app to warn you about incoming storms, no umbrella to keep you dry, and definitely no climate-controlled buildings to escape to. When it rains, you get soaked. When it's hot, you bake. When it's cold, you freeze. You're basically at the mercy of nature, and nature has a really twisted sense of humour. Your clothes, by the way, are about as comfortable as wearing a burlap sack filled with regret. They're made from materials that feel like they were designed by someone who had never actually worn clothing before but had heard it described by someone who also had never worn clothing. They're itchy, they smell weird, and they have the fashion sense of a scarecrow having an identity crisis. And at the end of this delightful day, you get to go home to your mud hut, eat more questionable food, and try to sleep on a bed that makes your worst hotel mattress feel like sleeping on a cloud made of dreams and comfort. Your pillow is probably a rock wrapped in animal hide, your blanket smells like whatever animal it came from, and your roommates are likely various insects and small creatures who didn't get the memo that this is supposed to be your private space. But hey, at least you don't have to worry about your phone battery dying or missing your favourite TV show. Of course, that's because phones and TVs don't exist yet, and your entertainment options are basically staring at fire and hoping someone tells a story that doesn't end with everyone dying horribly. So there you have it, folks, the Bronze Age, where every day is a survival challenge, every meal is a potential last meal, and every night you go to sleep grateful that you somehow made it through another day without being killed by your own livestock, your neighbours, or your breakfast. Sweet dreams, and remember to appreciate your boring modern life with its boring modern conveniences like soap, dentists, and food that probably won't kill you. If you enjoyed this journey back to humanity's more fragrant past, maybe hit that subscribe button, because apparently even our ancestors knew that life was better when you had something to look forward to, even if it was just making it to tomorrow without dying from a splinter infection.